Hello again. It's just another day in the life of a military wife, and we are going to go over some basics that I have briefly touched on, but we are going to use a lot more detail this time. Largely because of popular demand, I have been running into new families right and left, and they have the same questions every single time. So we are addressing those now, and they are the 3 things you need to take care of before you get to your first duty station. And that is DEERS, Tricare, Power of Attorney. Not exactly in that order, but yeah. And with DEERS, getting a military ID. Another thing that you really need to try to do is, once you know what your duty station is, look for housing, but we may or may not get to that one. Anyway, enough said, let's get going. I am your host, Sam Wolf, and this is Life of a Military Wife. All right, so let's just jump right in and talk about a power of attorney. If you are already in the military and you somehow have survived without a power of attorney, I can only imagine your life has been very, very, very needlessly complicated. A power of attorney, a durable power of attorney, allows the person who is given power of attorney to act in place of the person who's given the authorization. So it typically is the service member gives power of attorney typically to their spouse. And there are forms you can Google. There's actually, the military has ones you can pull up. They're really easy to find. If you are already a service member and you don't have a power of attorney for your spouse, go to JAG, get one. They've got them. But all you really have to do is find a good format and print it out and take it to a notary and fill it in and then give it to your spouse. We just Googled ours. We really did. But, okay, so I'm going to link a form that'll work. It's an Army form, but it'll work for most people. So you don't even have to Google it. It's going to be in the description, the link. However, the service member is the one who has to do it. They have to fill it out and take it to the notary. So again, if you are at AIT and you're the service member and you're trying to get this done, you can try to get permission to get to JAG and get it dealt with. Or just find a notary. See if you can find a notary at a bank. Most banks have them. I would call ahead of time. Or if you have not left for basic yet, and you happen to know a notary or whatever, you can just do it in person. But if you're having to do it and you're at AIT, you are then going to have to mail it to your spouse. They cannot have a photocopy. They cannot have a Xeroxed, whatever, emailed, whatever. It has to actually be the actual power of attorney. So yeah, you'll probably have to overnight ship that or something, depending on what your time schedule is. But it's super important. It will make your life easier. It'll make your spouse's life easier. And I will explain with coming up in the next, on the next few steps. So the next major thing you have to do is get signed up for DEERS. And you can't do that before you go to basic because you're not actually in the military until you're there. And I'm sure there's people who are like, what's DEERS, huh? And I've kind of talked about DEERS before, but DEERS is the Defense Enrollment Eligibility Reporting System. And it basically is what keeps track of everyone who's in the military or a military dependent, yada, yada, yada. That's a really poor explanation. It's just, basically they keep track of people. Anyway, and when you go to, but if you want to do anything else on post. You have to get into DEER's system. They're the ones who will issue your military ID. You have to do DEER's before you can do Tricare, which is the healthcare. Get signed up for healthcare, all of that other stuff. So with DEER's, you're going to need to go into a DEER's office. Now, when I say you, I'm meaning the spouse is going to need to go into the DEER's office. If the service member is not with them, this is when they need the durable power of attorney, or they need a DD 1172. And yeah, anyway, so I'm going to try to find a copy of a DD 1172 for y'all and link that, but haven't found it yet. Anyway, you need to walk in to it. We've always done walk-in appointments. They are and are not effective. Sometimes it's great. You can walk in, walk out, and be great if there's no wait. However, there's times where I've had to wait for over an hour. So walk in at your own peril at a DEER's office. DEER's offices are inside of military installations. So when I went to go get my first ID and do all my DEER's stuff, I didn't have my husband with me. He was an AIT. So I had to go to the visitor center for the nearest military installation to me and get a visitor's pass. You want to call ahead of time, because the first time I went, the visitor center, luckily, the people at the visitor center told me that the DEER's people were not in the office, and they even called and double checked, because otherwise I could have gotten my visitor's pass and then gone, and the DEER's office would have been closed, and it would have been completely a waste of time. So I would call visitor center, see what their hours are, see what their procedures are. They've changed and fluctuated a little bit in the recent past. Some of them you can even do online and then just go pick up your pass. Anyway, after that, I would also call the DEER's office, or there's a link I'm going to put in here for you to set up an appointment. But yeah, I would call, find out what their hours are, find out if they're usually busy and if they recommend an appointment or not. Because every military installation is different, and they have their busy days and their not busy days. Warning, military IDs and stuff they've been a little bit more flexible with DEER's stuff, because not all the DEER's offices were open last year all the time. And so there's going to be a huge influx of people desperately trying to update all of their ID and paperwork and stuff, because they've been putting it off because they were allowed to. So I would not delay. If you are new, go now before the rush hits. And when you get there, this is what you're going to need to have. You're going to need to have a marriage certificate, your birth certificate, your social security card, and a photo ID. And I think the first time, one of the times I went, I didn't have a social security card with me. I didn't have all the paperwork. Make sure you have all the paperwork. Just have a folder, put it all in there. It'll all be good. If you're adding a child to DEER's, it's the same thing. Other people you can add to your DEER's if you're military is children over the age of 21 who are full-time students, children who were born outside of marriage. Again, you're going to have documentation saying you're the parent. Parents or wards. So, for example, if you're taking care of your parents, you can add them to your DEER's. You need to have your DEER's done before you can move on to Tricare. So once you go and get enrolled into DEER's, you've brought them the marriage certificate and all that jazz, and they've put you in the system, that's when they can make you a military ID. And you're going to need that ID for everything. You're going to need it to go to the commissary. You're going to need to go to doctor's appointments. Your military ID not only gets you on post, but it's also your insurance card for your health care. So whenever you go to a doctor's appointment, on post, off post, that's what you show them. And it's really important not to lose it. And it's kind of embarrassing to replace it. Yeah, long stories. I had to have done that. I found out I did misplace my ID once. And we had to get a piece of paper from my husband's command saying that they could make me a new one. Yeah, it was really great explaining that I am. Yeah. Anyway, so got a new one and it was fine. But moving on, just take care of that. Treat that like your driver's license. Put it in a special place. Make sure you can access it fairly quickly when you're going through the gate. But at the same time, it's not in a place that's too easily accessible for kids or someone who's, fiddling around with your purse and shouldn't. So that is DEERS. Now, once you've done DEERS, there will be people who tell you, and this is not true, do not believe them, that you're in DEERS. You're signed up with Tricare. That is not a fact. Not a thing. So, after you've gotten into the DEERS system, then is when you need to take care of Tricare. Now, Tricare is the military health insurance. It's just health insurance. It is not dental automatically, I think. Anyway, you've got to roll in dental also. There's a lot to it. They do have guides on how to work on it. They're free, and I will include links to everything I can. But there are a lot of different Tricare health plans. There's Prime, Overseas, Select Overseas, and Reserve, and all those other ones. But Prime is basically going to be when your main doctor is going to be on post or on base or on a military installation. If your main doctor is on a military installation, I've had main doctors on different branches of it doesn't matter. You can be Army going to Navy, you can go Air Force to Army, it doesn't matter. Just if you're going to a military installation, it's Prime. If you are not going to military installation, so this is usually if you are 30 minutes or more from a military installation, then you can get Select. The distance may have changed. I think they're trying to encourage more people to do Select. And then there's Overseas, which is a whole different ballgame. And unfortunately for me, I've never had the pleasure of being overseas with Tricare, so I don't really have a lot of experience, but there's Overseas. So just know those are the different health plans, and you need to kind of figure out which one you want. Do you want to be on installation, off installation? If you're overseas, then you got the Overseas options. So the next thing is you need to figure out if you're, once you've done that, if you're in the United States, if you're in the East, Tricare East, Tricare West, there's different Tricare regions. So you need to figure out which Tricare region you're in. And then you need to fill out an application. There are lots of different ways to fill out this application. I will tell you which ones I recommend. Do which whenever you want. You can fill it out online. Some people said that worked great for them and spiffy. Fill it out online. Me and Tricare Online's website have not loved each other. We have this love-hate relationship and a little bit of animosity going down. So the website's not my favorite thing in the world, but I've got tons of friends who use it and love it. So, yep, there's the online option. By phone, which is the one I subjected my poor husband to, and he was on the phone for quite a while signing us up. So just know, do it when you're bored and you got nothing to do. You'll probably be waiting around for a bit. But he signed us up over the phone, and it went just fine. So that was how we did it. And then by mail. And in all sincerity, I don't really know why was anyone in this day and age would do by mail unless there was absolutely no other way. But yeah, it's just not how I'd recommend going about it. So once you start figuring all of that out, you're enrolled into Tricare and everything. You need to then contact whatever your military installation is and get a primary care manager, maybe? I actually don't know what PCM stands for anymore. But you need to get a PCM. You need to get a doctor. And Tricare will help you with that. Actually, yeah, it's Tricare that does that. Anyway, they'll help you pick out the PCM and all that whole little jazz thing. So the reason why you need to get on this right away, though, is because if you're anything like me and you have the wonderful luck that I do, you'll get to your first duty station and need to use the urgent care ER-ness because you've got a sinus infection from being stressed out or something during the move. Not that I've ever done that at all, stressed out about moving. But anyway, you never know. And you want to get your kids on that right away too. There's people I know who they've delayed getting their kids signed up for the dental and everything, and because they don't have teeth when they're first born. And then all of a sudden they have a toddler who has teeth and gets their head whacked on something and chips a tooth, and they don't have dental set up, and they have to go hurry and set up all this dental and do all this paperwork before they can actually take care of the emergency. So you don't want to be waiting for an emergency to happen before you actually take care of those situations. The other thing I wanted to kind of talk about a little bit more and just kind of explain, there is a lot, and you are going to feel like you're drinking from a fire hose when you first get into the military. Take a deep breath. It's going to be fine. Be proactive. Look for resources. Ask for help. Ask questions. It's going to be okay. And there are going to be times where things go awry and paperwork gets mixed up or lost or whatever. And that's where it's good to have kind of redundancies. And this is something I feel really grateful that we were told about before we got in. And it's a kind of a silly name that we call it, but it's I Love Me folder. So when my husband first was going to go into the military, we were told by, I can't even remember who now, to basically get everything in writing and keep copies of everything. And at first I thought that was kind of a little ridiculous, but I've come to realize it's really super necessary. And there's going to be times where you're going to need 4 or 5 or 6 copies of something. Like, for example, your husband's orders. So when I was going to cancel my utilities and my contract for my rental so that I could join my husband at our first duty station, I had to everyone wanted an original copy of his orders. Like, everyone wanted a copy of his orders. And so we had we had massive copies of his orders, so we could just give everyone a copy of his orders, but we also kept a copy for ourselves, just to keep in the I Love Me folder. And we've done that with everything. Get everything in writing. If the recruiter is promising you some sort of bonus, make sure that's in writing. If they're saying that your husband's going to be able to skip up a couple ranks because of XYZ reason, get that in writing. Get everything in writing and keep copies of everything, and then put them in a safe place. Have your own little file folder with all of the Army crazy and keep track of everything. And this is another pitfall I have seen quite a few new service members fall into. Read everything. Do not sign anything. No matter how much they're pressuring you, no matter how much they're hurrying you up, no matter what they say, read every single word on every document you sign. It will be a lifesaver, because the military is notorious for hurry up and wait. They want you to hurry and sign everything, and then you have a lot of time to think about, wait, what the heck did I just sign? Make sure you read it all. Like I literally sat my husband's contract down with the recruiter, and I read every single word, and I asked him about every single thing that I didn't understand. And I'm sure he thought I was really annoying, but you know what? It's our family's livelihood on the line, so I didn't care. Same thing happened with our first rental agreement in our first duty station. I wasn't aware of the legal situation and what the rights were for renters in that area. And we found out that there was some housing liaison, now I'm going to blank on what it's called, find out basically there are people you can go to on your installation who will sit down with you. We had someone do it for us, so that's how I know this is possible. Sit down with you and go through the entire rental agreement with you and tell you, is this normal? Is this not normal? All of that stuff. And they helped a lot. So when we went back and we talked to the property management company, we're like, well, we got some issues with this term, and I don't understand that, and what do you mean by this? And we know that this is actually not, above board. What are you doing? So that's there's just some basics that I would really recommend. And that same thing goes for post-base installation, whatever housing. Do not sign anything until you have read it all. And they can't make you sign it right there on the spot. Anyway, they're supposed to give you time to look things over. So don't let people pressure you into writing your signature on anything you're not comfortable with. I just see so many people get into sticky situations when they're new in the service because they don't do that. And it's not something we're used to doing. We're used to just clicking agree or accept, and you can't do that. So that is my basic ramble for this week. I hope it was helpful. But yeah, first few steps, definitely always have the power of attorney. It has saved us so much headache and hassle because, like, for one of our kids, I had to sign them up for DEERS when my husband wasn't there, and I had forgot to bring the power of attorney, but luckily I had it, so I was able to go back and get it, and I was able to take care of everything when he wasn't there, and it was a huge lifesaver. There's just been so many times where having that power of attorney has been helpful when setting up utilities, when we had to sell a vehicle and my husband wasn't there. Your spouse is going to be gone a lot. That power of attorney is super important. So yeah, those are my big recommendations. Power of attorney, get into DEERS, get your ID, get your Tricare set up, read everything, and keep files on everything. So, hope y'all are doing well. Hope this was helpful. And again, if you have more questions about navigating military life, please send them my way. If I can't answer them myself, I will find someone smarter than me who's got the answers, because you know what? Even I need to learn new things sometimes. Anyway, take care, and you're listening to Life of Military Wife, and I am your host, Sam Wolf.